to the regular Board of Education meeting for the Oshkosh Area School District for Wednesday, March 23rd, 2016. Has this meeting been properly noticed, Mrs. Collins?
Yes, it has.
Can you call the roll, please?
Vito.
Here.
Eliason.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Garner.
Here.
Herzog.
Here.
Lumberger. Olmsted.
Here.
We have a quorum.
This time, looks like we are dealing with Pledge of Allegiance from Oak Lawn Elementary School, Kevin Lynch and Peyton Totes.
You guys can stand over there if you want.
Sure. Sure.
You're on TV.
I know.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hang on, you guys.
Don't go away.
At this time, it looks like we have Merrill Middle School Jazz Band performance. It's kind of a neat thing to have here.
We're really privileged to begin a series that we're going to be trying. The second board meeting of every month is to bring in a musical group. After we had musical presentations from our two high schools celebrating their musicals for this year, the board asked if we could arrange and come together with recognizing other arts performers throughout the school district, and we're going to, on a rotation basis, rotate around. And Ms. Cindy Olson, principal of Merrill, obviously checked with Mr. Bauer and determined that you were going to be ready to go with first with jazz band. And I'll turn it over to you, Cindy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mack. When we were told that we had the opportunity to showcase one of our musical groups, for me it was a really easy choice to bring our jazz band to share with you and the community. They're an amazing group totally made up of middle schoolers, 7th and 8th grade band students, and I am going to turn it over to Taylor Romer to share with you a little bit about them.
Good evening. My name is Taylor Romer, and this is the Merrill Middle School Jazz Ensemble under the direction of Mr. Charles Bauer. At this time, we would like to thank Mr. Stan Mack, administration, and the members of the Board of Education for inviting us to showcase our musical talents. Tonight we will perform two selections. The first selection is entitled Drama for Your Mama. I will have a solo in this song. Our final selection is Riders on the Storm, which is a rock song that was performed by The Doors. We hope you enjoy our performance.
Mikey, and we talked to Mr. Bauer, and he said, no, we'll be loud enough here.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you, guys. That was nice.
Great, great, thank you.
It looks like at this time, we're going to be doing the employees. Employees of the Year recognition.
Give a chance for Mr. Mike Knoll to make it over to the presentation table. This evening, earlier, we had an opportunity to honor and recognize in a little reception next door at Tippler Middle School these outstanding employees who have been selected from a large number of employees who were nominated for this year, and we're really pleased to have that recognition this evening. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Nault, who will proceed through with introducing and congratulating them, and our board president, Steve Dito, will be presenting a certificate for each of those honored individuals. So, Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Are we on here? Yes, okay. Thank you. As Stan alluded to, we are going to introduce you to our Employees of the Year, and we had about 130 nominations this year, of which 8 were selected. We have 2 elementary teachers of the year, 2 secondary teachers of the year, 2 paraprofessionals of the year, 1 brand new teacher of the year, and 1 administrator of the year. So, with that being said, the first person that I want to bring attention to is Darcy Trebotowski, and Darcy could not be with us this evening, but Darcy is a behavior interventionist with the district, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to read 1 or 2 sentences from each one of these selected individuals, these employees of the year, relative to the person that nominated them wrote these sentences. And this person said, "I have witnessed firsthand Darcy crawling under a table to talk with a child who only feels safe at that moment under a table. She meets the child where they are emotionally. Please welcome me in congratulating Mrs. Darcy Trebotowski as one of our 2 elementary teachers of the year." And would Jennifer Aller please come forward? Jennifer is a 4th grade teacher at Washington Elementary School. Jennifer is a consummate professional. She strives to daily fulfill the Washington mission, molding students to be self-reflective, hard-working learners who take pride in their achievements. I have witnessed Jenny embrace all of the changes in the OASD curriculum over the past 10 years. Walking into her classroom, you will note the calmness of the space. Her love of teaching and genuine concern for her students in the classroom and their overall well-being shines through in all she does. Please join me in congratulating Mrs. Jennifer Aller as one of our 2 elementary teachers of the year. And would Alexandra Griffith please come forward? Alexandra is an English teacher at West High School. Alex regularly finds ways to empower her students and shows them ways in which they can change the world. She says, "My goal is to show every single student that they can be a powerful change agent. Think of how much that would change our community." Please welcome me in congratulating Alex Griffith as one of our 2 secondary teachers of the year. Would I'm missing one. Would Erica Norse please come forward? Erica is a paraprofessional at South Park. Erica really gets to know the students and seek out her help because she is so approachable. She has high expectations that the students rise to meet. Please join me in congratulating Erica as one of our 2 support staff members of the year. Is Kim going to be here? Yeah. Yep.
It's my privilege to introduce the second Secondary Teacher of the Year, which is Miss Liz Podvin, if she could join us up front. Liz is a leadership and business teacher at Oshkosh West High School, and she is well known for how engaging and how she gets students to go out into the community and do amazing things. Thank you, Liz. Congratulations.
Would you, let's have Samantha Atwell please come forward. And Samantha is one of our brand new Teachers of the Year. She's a first Teacher of the Year. She's a cross-categorical teacher at Webster Middle.
And Sammy is known for how organized she is and the care that she gives students in the intellectual disabilities area at Webster Stanley Middle School. We are so proud of her being a first-year teacher here in the Oshkosh Area School District. Congratulations, Sammy.
And would Jay Jones please come forward? And Jay is a principal at Tipler Middle School. Jay's belief in being a public servant is clear as he interacts with staff, students, parents, and community members. His dedication to learning, positive staff, student, and community relationships, service in the community, and work ethic make him the best choice for the Administrator of the Year. Please join me in congratulating Jay Jones as Principal of the Year. And would Tori Hebert please come forward? And Tori is a paraprofessional at Merrill Middle School.
Tori, as a paraprofessional, earlier this evening was mentioned as being the heart of Merrill Middle School and making sure that everything runs well on a daily basis. We thank you for all you do, Tori, at Merrill Middle School and the Oshkosh Area School District.
And once again, we'd like to congratulate all of our employees of the year. As I said earlier, they are the best of the best, cream of the crop. Top-notch educators, and we are so pleased that they're with the Oshkosh Area School District and not one of our surrounding area school districts. So thank you so much, and congratulations to all of them.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike and Julie, but only a human resources director would do that kind of commercial.
At this time, we're going into board and administrative reports. Superintendent's report.
Yes, good evening. For March 23rd, the superintendent's good news report for the activities of the last couple of weeks. First of all, congratulations to Amy Sippert, first grade teacher at Merrill Elementary School, for receiving the IRA Reggie Rootman Teacher Recognition Grant, which is awarded for an outstanding elementary teacher who is dedicated to improving reading, writing, teaching, and learning in school, where at least 60% of the students qualify for free and reduced lunch. Again, congratulations, Amy, just recognized earlier this week. Congratulations also to Oshkosh West Finance and Investment Team, who took first place at the Regional Investment Challenge competition. They will move on to compete at the state tournament in Milwaukee. Congratulations to Nikki Sutter, Oshkosh West head basketball coach, as she did color commentary for 2 of the games at the WIAA state basketball tournament. And congratulations to Oshkosh West senior gymnast Teresa Richards, who advanced to compete in the vault and uneven bars at the WIAA state meet. 9 members of the Oshkosh West Academy for Global Studies will be traveling to several destinations, some of which include Spain, Mexico, Chile, Italy, the Dominican Republic, Ghana, and Botswana. Students will have the opportunity to be ambassadors for the Council on International Education Global Exchange Navigator Program. They will participate in the service and leadership programs during a month-long visits. The Academy is one of 4 Wisconsin schools chosen and one of 74 in the U.S. They received over $37,000 in grants for students to be able to experience this life-changing program.
That's cool.
Really falls right under Steve Dito's or Steve Eliasson's world exploration goals as well. 3 OASD teachers were invited by Oshkosh West students to participate in the teacher weekend at WSPEIS's Youth Partnership with Parents and Empowerment Conference. The parents will be developing community action plans that can share information and they received during their training with others in the community. Over 100 people attended the South Park Family Literacy Night, where students participated in book swap, a book walk, played literacy board games, made bookmarks, and received a free book to take home. Families could read under the stars, take a book selfie, and learn about upcoming summer reading program events. At Franklin Elementary, first grade students from Franklin received the U.S. flag and learned about the respect for the flag as well as the importance of veterans and their role in keeping America safe, the country safe during Flag for First program on March 2nd. Franklin students who have been writing essays and displaying them in the hallways to communicate what the meaning of Franklin Way is to them. The Franklin Way states, "Every person, every day, will help others feel valued and respected as we learn and grow together." Franklin students also would like to thank Mr. Steve Eliasson for providing them with the opportunity and teaching them the skills needed for cross-country skiing. Franklin students received celebrated National Breakfast Week by participation in fun activities that taught them about the importance of starting each day with a nutritious breakfast. Special thanks to the OASD Middle School Counseling Dream Team and the Oshkosh Chamber for organizing a career day on March 10th for 8th grade students district-wide. Approximately 800 students were able to visit 100 business partners and learn about careers. The OASD held a successful child development screening days fair in early March, where nearly 150 students ages 2.5 to 3.5 were screened during a one-week time frame. South Park Technology, an engineering teacher, Jason Jiske, recently had the opportunity to present at a conference on the use of 3D printers and integrating technology in the classroom. Mr. Jiske used grant money earlier this year to purchase the printer, and the students in grades 6 through 8 are now creating projects using that new technology. OASD Middle School 7th and 8th grade students participated in the citywide Farnsworth Mears Art Contest, which was established 89 years ago to honor the memory of a great sculptor who was from Oshkosh and has work displayed in the U.S. Capitol as well as the state capitol. Listed here are the winners. An honorable mention. Artwork is on an exhibit at the lower level of the Oshkosh Public Library until March 30th. You'll be able to see a few pieces of that artwork, and we have a number of photographs that I believe Julie will lead us through. Thank you. Thanks to two members of the Leadership Oshkosh 3 bins and a bag of clothing were delivered to the Merrill Clothes Closet to help students in need. We appreciate the generosity. Merrill Middle School students were visited by 5 Japanese college students attending UW Oshkosh who observed in their classes and taught them about Japanese culture as well as providing a lesson on paper folding. The Japanese students shared what it is like to go to school in Japan and the difference between classes and students both there and here in the United States. Congratulations to Roosevelt 5th grade classes who recently graduated from the DARE program. Students were taught by Officer Mike Drexler about making good decisions that will lead to safe and healthy lives. The Oshkosh Area School District and Roosevelt Elementary School would like to publicly thank Officer Drexler on his 27 years of service as a police officer on the police force, and thank him for his years of service at Roosevelt Elementary School as a DARE officer. Officer Drexler just retired at the end of last month. Students in Mr. Shear's 5th grade class recently had the opportunity to experience FaceTime and meet their pen pals in Clovis, New Mexico. Jacob Shapiro families enjoyed Family STEM Night by dropping hard-boiled eggs onto pea gravel and sand, rubber, and nuggets and wood chips to investigate the different playground surfaces. That they calculated the damage to the eggs and then communicated the results. They discussed the disadvantages and advantages of each surface and then wrote suggestions using the claim, evidence, and reasoning format. Thanks to all who helped to make this learning event possible, including Wave Robotics students and Festival Foods. Sure glad those were hard-boiled eggs. About 120 people were present at the Webster Stanley Elementary School annual STEM night on March 10th. Families enjoyed an evening of dinner and using problem-solving skills to create and work with science projects. Thank you for Festival Foods for donating supplies and Culver for donating Sunday coupons as prizes. And over 300 Carl Traeger Middle School students and parents recently participated in several activities during their STEM night. 6th grade at Carl Traeger choir students presented The Lion King to a packed house and did a great job. And congratulations to Aaron Connors, who competed in the National USA Games in New Jersey and brought home gold, 2 silvers, and bronze medals. Aaron has been competing in Special Olympics swimming since she was 9 years old and currently swims with her high school team as well. Congratulations also to Oshkosh North High School freshman Jared Falk, who is a competitive swimmer in the Special Olympics. Now in his 4th year, Jared had won gold in the Special Olympics competition and now also swims at Oshkosh North Spartan team. He won very first race at the Fox Valley Conference Championship in the 50-yard freestyle. And Special Olympics has opened the doors of opportunities for these 2 students and helped them meet the challenges to their lives. Thanks to all who have helped with the Special Olympics program. And lastly, you will see a long list of activities and events participated in the last 2 weeks, as every day seems as busy as the next. So, thank you. That completes my report, President Dito.
Other reports from committee chairs? Dr. Herzog.
The Policy and Governance Committee met on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, and we discussed several policies that Neola, our consulting group for policy development and revision, had shared with us. The first one we looked at was one dealing with employment of personnel for curricular and co-curricular and extracurricular activities. There was a minor change to this policy in that it changed one word, but it changed things rather dramatically because it noted that by adding the word not, it completely changed the meaning of a sentence dealing with the ability to pursue a grievance. That change was recommended to come to the full board tonight for approval. We also took a look at high school diplomas for veterans. We have school boards in the past have made high school diplomas available typically to individuals who had left high school in order to put on a uniform of their country and to defend our freedoms. And so today, those groups would typically involve some World War II veterans, more likely Korean War veterans, possibly some Vietnam veterans, since the military has changed its policies and for at least 30 years has not accepted recruits without at least a high school diploma. And we thought that there should be no additional changes to that policy draft. We also looked at a policy dealing with weapons, and Mr. Mack had suggested that the Director of Recreation be added to a list of people who could make a decision regarding weapons exceptions, as the Director of Recreation is a person who approves facility use after regular hours. And we also recommended that that policy come to the board for approval tonight. Normally, the board would not review administrative guidelines, but there were two that we did take a look at that particular meeting because they had to do with dealing with controversial issues in the classroom, and it was felt that it was important to inform the board what the guidelines would look like. And secondly, alternative learning options for opt-out students. Parents in some situations have the opportunity to opt their children out of learning experiences. However, typically they're not then placed in another activity dealing with the same content. We also reviewed the board meeting staff report that had been passed some time ago, approving Neola services. We agreed that excuse me, the services are very important and discussed the advantages of being timely and keeping our policies up to date and keeping us all legal. We had to express some concern about the timing between release of updates and actual updating, and noted that the district will be adding a section to our website to show pending policies so people can see and have access to those. We also talked about the need to update the superintendent's job description, which I believe is at least 20 years old, and there have been changes since then in form and function. And so I had requested that we invite a member of the Wisconsin Association of School Boards to the May meeting of the Policy and Governance Group to help us to update that job description and also the evaluation process. And we have a meeting scheduled for April 7th at 9:30 in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Other committee reports? Seeing none, at this time, it looks like we would move into our non-agenda related public forum.
Is there a report on the March 9th?
Oh, yep, you're right. March 9th listening session. Do we have any kind of, is there anybody there?
Yes. I don't have the script, but I'm going to recall it as best we could. We had a rather extensive discussion with two representatives of the community who are concerned with potentially creating more opportunities for international exchange students to come to the district. At the present time, our policy and under the state rules of the U.S. Department of State regulate that we can only have 8 students per high school participating, and usually those slots are filled rather early on. And
5 per high school.
5 per high school.
Five per high school, pardon me. Five students per high school, and those slots are filled. Dave was there taking careful notes, so he may be able to fill in from that. But basically, the concern was, could we create a mid-year opportunity for students because of one international exchange program from Asia that doesn't permit students to leave in the fall of the year.
Yeah, so basically what they're asking for is for us to reserve a spot because they would only come for a semester. Because of Malaysia, they only allow that. So one of the things we asked for the board members at the time is we certainly have the administrative authority to do that. There's nothing in board policy, nor would we recommend putting anything in board policy on that, just to keep the flexibility open. So we went ahead and made that exception, and we also are pulling some information, and I'm not sure, but I think we've sent that to you already, regarding the actual breakdown of the previous years and how many came from the various agencies. So it's worked out quite well. We usually use up both of the Oshkosh North and Oshkosh West slots. We don't necessarily reserve and hold too much, because sometimes AFS, for example, one of the leading agencies we work with, has people requesting north and west. So and basically all we were saying is we'd like to use some administrative flexibility on how we allocate those, and there seemed to be no objection at the time. So win-win for everybody.
And we're really pleased to be able to have students participate in that. I think the enrichment experience for students, both our students here as well as the students visiting us, is simply a wonderful international experience, not dissimilar to the global communities opportunities for our students this summer.
Thank you. At this time, our public forum section is in place. If you wish to speak, the first portion of this is a non-agenda related public forum. If you wish to speak, please clearly state your name and address and the topic you wish to address, and limit your comments to time 5 minutes, if you would, please.
Good evening. I'm Kim Nguyen. I live at 682 Evans in Oshkosh. I have a few prepared words on the referendum on April 5th. When my wife and I first arrived here 20 years ago, it took us a while to realize the differences between Oshkosh and Appleton. In Oshkosh, the airport was slowly shutting down. The mall was not here. It is in Appleton. Oshkosh City Council's vision for the downtown was to tear down derelict buildings while closed and underused factories sat on the Fox River. It has taken most of the intervening years for a new set of Oshkosh residents and leaders to reimagine its place and rebuild the downtown, the infrastructure, the streets, the riverfront, the new university buildings, a new school. The modern economy is no longer driven by the old standbys of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Low-skilled jobs first moved out of state, then out of the country, and the only good-paying new job growth is knowledge-intensive. The modern economy needs workers who are also fluent in technology and engineering, who have multicultural experience, who know about the wider world, so they are able to thrive in rapidly changing industries. On that basis, we are competing economically not with Indiana or Mexico, but also China. We cannot do this without a continued investment in our schools. Great schools result in a flourishing economy, one that is good for everyone. I have 2 sons in the district. Next year, both of them will be in Alps, which is among the highest ranked schools in the state, despite our district being among the lowest cost. My younger son just earlier today, proudly showed me his new ceramic art project. My older son plays the viola in the school orchestra and is taking Spanish class. Both of them are heavily into science and technology. They love to read. They are totally up on Greek mythology and ninjas. But this is not just about my kids. All kids seek out and deserve these kinds of learning opportunities. It is our responsibility and duty as members of society to help ensure that the next generation has these opportunities for growth. I recently spoke with a 93-year-old woman who said to me, "I will absolutely vote yes on April 5. I have always voted yes for these things because that's what you do. It's that important. Where would we all be without good schools?" April 5 is our moment to reflect on who we want to be as citizens. April 5 is our moment to decide whether we want to return to our recent past, watching our city slowly decline, or if we want to pitch in and say yes to a future for our kids, our neighbors' kids, our friends' kids, our neighbors' good job prospects, our city's thriving future. Say yes to imagining a great future for Oshkosh. Vote yes on April 5th.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak on a non-agenda related item this evening?
I'm not sure if it's agenda or non-agenda, but I'm here as well to speak. Hello, everyone. I'm Carl Lowenstein. I live at 50 Lake Street, and I was here a few weeks ago. I am honored to be the chair of the Support Oshkosh Students Vote Yes on April 5th committee. And I just wanted to come to this board meeting once again to talk about the fabulous community in which we live and the overarching positive experiences that we have had as a group working with people all across this community to help them understand the importance of supporting our schools on April 5th. And there's just a couple of things I wanted to say because I think that you'll see later in this meeting that the facts speak for themselves. Right? This is a great district. We produce great students, great graduates, and we do that at a very low cost. And we've done that well for many years. As a board member, I was proud of the work we've done. As a parent, I love the opportunities that my children have in this school district. And of course, as a volunteer, just helping the schools, I love the positive sentiment that's going on in this community. Let me say that on top of that, in general, we have to remember that good schools support our entire community. I think Mr. Nguyen talked about that very nicely, but I'd also point out that we have many of the leading organizations supporting this referendum. This isn't just a small group of parents. It's concerned citizens from all sides of community, but we have groups like the Greater Oshkosh the Economic Development Corporation has endorsed this referendum. The Great Oshkosh for Education organization, who has been working very closely with the district on the strategic plan, has asked for a yes vote on April 5th. And I could go down the list of parent groups, of athletic groups, of voter groups throughout this community who understand, as we do, that voting yes on April 5th is an absolute essential for a community. So I would say, the last thing I would say in this is that if you have any questions, the first place to come, obviously, is our great district information website. But even more than that, if you want to have a conversation with us, you can visit us on Facebook, or you can visit us on the web at supportoshkoshstudents.org. But I think, in the end, this is a very important choice for us, and I guess I want to end again without any specifics here today, because you're going to hear a lot of specifics later, is that this is about believing in our community. So believe in our students who are doing great work. You know, believe in our community as a place that aspires and can be better. We've heard here today about some great opportunities. So believe in Oshkosh and vote yes on April 5th. Thank you very much.
You're going to leave, Alex? I was going to say something about you. John Ryland, 3356 Leonard Point Lane. I come to you as a parent, as a citizen of Oshkosh, and I'm also a school district employee. I have two things I want to, first of all, encourage everyone April 5th to vote yes for the referendum for many reasons. I'd like to quote Mr. Eliason, you know, we have a winning argument. When I say that, you've heard the numbers, that we tax at a lower rate than areas around us. We have some of the lower costs of almost every category you can be in there. But many times I've come to this board and talked about, it's about people. I have the honor to work with Alex here. I've witnessed many things, and it's little things. I happened to be walking to my car yesterday, and as I was walking out to this car, this girl was walking. I don't want to think I was spying or anything. It just happened to be on the side there, and I looked down, and this girl, I don't know if Alex knew him or not, but there was two little kids down there. She got down on her knees and she started playing with these kids, and these kids just seemed the happiest could be. So why do I feel the need to tell this story is that I believe this is a people business, and having excellent people like Alex over there is so important. Oshkosh West is a great place because of people like Alex. And this referendum, losing this, we're going to lose people like Alex here. All right? And having opportunity for students is listening to this band here. I mean, from a guy that can't play the radio well, that takes practice and encouragement. Yes, the students have to go home and practice, but it's that in person encouraging them to do that. You know, having these minds is why it keeps me up night worrying about this referendum. I encourage everybody to vote yes. We have a winning argument. Please look at the facts, but remember, this is about people. This is a great district because of great people. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thanks,
Hi, I'm Ann Dickey at 1813 North Point Street, and I'm also a volunteer with the Vote Yes committee, and I just wanted to characterize our meetings for people who haven't been. It's been amazing to get to know in my first year here the people who have come to the meetings, district employees who are off the clock and still care, parents who have left kids with a spouse to do the homework and get them into bed because they care, retirees who are concerned, and people who have never had kids in the schools who have moved as a retiree to the area who still care and want to get involved. And there were two things that have happened in the course of volunteering that really showed me how concerned and committed our community is. One, I was putting out a sign, and it was the sign for the mother of someone who works as an aide in the district. And I pulled up, and I popped the trunk, and I'm kind of like shoving the H-wire into the sign. And so she looks out the window, and she can tell, that the sign has arrived. So she runs out the door, with a $20 bill in her hand and says, I'm so glad you're here. I can't see any signs up and down my street, and there has to be one, and this has to go. We have to do this. And she was just she wanted to know that she was not alone in her commitment and her conviction that this has to pass. And the other thing that came to mind was sitting at a table at Shapiro, where my son goes to school, with a Vote Yes volunteer, and I was helping provide information on behalf of the school district, and he was there for the campaign. And he was telling me about all the things that he was able to learn in middle school and in high school here that have made him a better person, a more well-rounded person, a more successful person, that have nothing to do with what he does now. He was able to go to college with a German major mostly intact. He had a wonderful experience in the music program. He also learned a lot in shop. And then he went on to get an MBA and cares so much about Oshkosh that he's back here living and working and volunteering in the campaign. Doesn't have kids, just really, really cares. And I think it says a lot that this community inspires that kind of loyalty and that kind of enthusiasm. And it's great that people in high school are able to develop themselves as a broad person, develop themselves with a lot of their skills, not just one of their skills, because I think it's sad when we are so concerned about our ability to succeed later that we have to choose the one thing that we think might be able to earn us $1 later and only do that. So it's important to prepare people for success. It's also important to prepare them to be the best that they can be as people. And so I love the breadth of opportunity at the middle and high school level, and I really hope that we can keep that. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on a non-agenda related item during the public forum section? Is there anyone who wants to speak on an agenda related topic for the public forum? Hearing none, it looks like we go into our workshop. Dr. Gunlock and Susan Snorer.
As Dr. Gunlock makes his way, this is his 40th presentation.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Pretty excited about that. I tell you.
He has it well done, but every time he does it a little differently because creativity follows a great science teacher that became a great administrator. And we've been through a lot of these efforts. He's joined by Sue Schnorr, who keeps us straight with every number in the district and who leads our financial accountability within the district as well. With that, I'll turn it over to Dave and Sue.
I can attest that he changes the presentation once in a while. Stan and I were doing the presentation earlier this week, and I was doing my part, and I got to a slide, and I had never seen it before, and I had no idea what it was. And so it kind of took me back a little bit, and after I regained my composure, I was able to explain the slide, but it was a great slide.
I do that intentionally. 'Cause after 40 times, you need something to keep it going, and yeah. We're actually on version 4.5, so if you go on the website, you'll notice on the lower right-hand corner, it's version 4.5. We were at 4.4 this morning, but I like to make at least one edit every day. It just keeps me going. One of the reasons we wanted to do the full informational presentation for you is because you've seen bits, you've seen pieces, but you've never seen all of the components put together. I'd also like to take a moment to thank all the countless of community organizations that have invited us in and have been so kind to allow us to come in and share this information. Some of them have heard the presentation twice, 3 times, 4 times. Yeah, I think we have to work out some sort of a prize if you've sat through this presentation 3 times. But they've all been incredibly gracious and had great questions. The reason this presentation really changes so often is because we change it based upon the people we present to. They often ask questions that we had not thought of. They hear some information that they'd like explained in a slightly different way, so we just continue to refine it. But we always start with our focus on the community and how tightly tied we are to the community. Our strategic plan comes from the community. Everything that is good or bad is tied with our community here, and that includes even the work we had to do with the budget reductions. That was all of that was vetted through the community. We are a highly efficient, low-spending, high-achieving district. Our focus here is really to continue our progress on our great cost-benefit story. But the biggest question we often get is, we went to referendum 2 years ago, why do we have to come back again? And that's really answered by this one graph. We've received inadequate state funding to continue the programs that we currently have. And you've heard several times here earlier today about what a low spending district we are, what an efficient district we are. That's all true. That works against us. And you'll hear about why when we talk a little bit about when revenue limits were put in. But simply put, if you look at this graph, the line at the top in green is what the state increase would have been had the state of Wisconsin just provided base inflationary increases to the per pupil revenue limit. As you guys know, they took the authority away from you as school boards back in 1992 to make these decisions. So the state legislature made the same decision for all 423 school districts in Wisconsin. And that would be awesome if we were all clones of each other and all had the same kids in the same places. But we don't. Some districts are incredibly frugal, some districts are incredibly affluent, and everywhere in between. So this really works against us because we don't have a lot of wiggle room, and you'll see why in a moment. The blue line in the graph is the actual state increase. You can see there that in 9, 10, and 10, 11, we had a significant state increase, and then 11, 12, there was the most significant decrease in the history of Wisconsin, a $500 per pupil removal. Most of that was balanced out by reducing compensation of all of our employees, and we were able to get through that and got back to a period of very minor increases. And then what really caused our problem and brings us here today, as you know, is in 15-16 and in 16-17, they've allocated a $0 increase in the per pupil limit. And the big red arrow on that screen you'll see is the funding gap. And that gap is something we had hoped to never see, but we did. And there's nothing we can do about that gap, nothing you can do about that gap, except go to the community and say, can we please go beyond that limitation? And that's what the referendum is about. We were surprised, pleasantly surprised, to get an independent analysis that we were not necessarily expecting. Professor Ford from the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh did an independent analysis that we were not aware of. But as you can see here, you know, OASD not crying wolf on the deficit. He confirmed many of the numbers that we had. But our basic presentation boils down to this. Our ability to meet our community's expectations and our students' needs is being compromised by ongoing budget cuts. What we'd like to do is talk a little bit about where we're going. And by the way, this slide completely changed due to community input. Originally, we started talking about the cuts and what had to happen and why we wanted to go to referendum. And the community over and over again said, why don't you focus on the positive things we're doing and let's put the cuts way at the end. Let's talk about where we want to go, what our cost-benefit story is, and all the good things. So we're going to start talking about the strategic plan. We're going to talk very briefly about our assessment results. We're going to talk about our cost drivers and how we compare. That also is a positive story, but it has challenges to it. We're going to talk about our referendum for learning, and we do have to, at that point, go in and talk about if we didn't get support on the referendum, we have to balance the books, and how do we do that. And lastly, we're going to talk about the tax impact of the referendum, and then we always open it up for questions. So our strategic plan, which many people don't know, we're on our second strategic plan. We're on Strategic Plan 2.0 that goes from 2016 to 2019. It's focused on 5 core priorities that came from a rather massive survey of the community, as well as working with over 50 people at Fox Valley Technical College on focus groups, and they distilled it down to these 5 items. Priority 1 is improve student learning for all. Priority 2 is improving district communications. Priority 3 is developing and investing in our quality staff, and you're going to see why that's so important in a few slides. Priority 4 is maintaining and improving our facilities. That is something that was not done, and frankly, you're paying for that. You know, that a lot of the increases we've seen in our levy have come from the fact that we did not take care of our facilities and we needed to play catch up. Priority 5 is strengthening partnerships and community engagement. Now, as they went through these 5 priorities, they realized there was one thing that really was necessary in order to operationalize them, and that is sustainable funding. And what that means is that while we can do this for less than other districts, we still need funding tied to certain things to advance them. And this referendum is really a big step in that direction. The other thing that's important to look at is open enrollment and school revenue. We live in an open enrollment state. Now what that means is all of us who have children have a choice of where our children attend. If we want them to attend a different district like Neenah, Winneconne, Omro, or North Fond du Lac, that's easy to do. In fact, in Oshkosh, we actually net lose kids to open enrollment to the tune of about $690,000 worth of taxes. Now what that means is that we send about $690,000 of our tax money to Neenah, to Winneconne, to Omro, to North Fond du Lac, so that they will educate our kids. And if you look at this graph, you'll see that in 10-11, 11-12, and 12-13, we were trending in the wrong direction. We went from 91 to 100, even though it says value there. That value is 100, in case you were wondering.
Version 4.6?
No, it's because I'm operating off of that computer, not my computer.
That little bug just keeps appearing once in a while.
It does when I move it to a new computer, and this is why I don't move things to new computers. But you'll see went up to 132 net loss in 12-13. And as board members, you were very concerned about that. That was one of the things we kept hearing is, why is that happening? So if you'll recall, we did a survey with UW Oshkosh. They talked to all the families coming in as well as those going out, and we found a couple commonalities. The biggest one was, do you have the programs that my children need? Do you have a comprehensive education that will meet my child's needs and allow him or her to compete with other kids in surrounding communities? Number 2 was stability. Are we closing Lakeside, or are we going to make Lakeside a full school? Are we closing Oak Lawn, or are we building a new Oak Lawn? That's what we kept hearing over and over again. In 13-14, we dropped down to 103, which was a welcome sign, about a 30 student swing. We went up 1 in 14-15, but then a pleasant surprise to us, in 15-16 we dropped to the lowest number in many years. In fact, as far as we could recall, a net loss of only 71 students. Now, if you look at what was going on at that time, you'll see at the bottom of those charts in 10-11, 11-12, 12-13, and 13-14, we were doing program and budget reductions over and over and over again. And by the way, previous to 2010, you were doing budget reductions over and over again. So what that was doing was causing instability in the school system, and parents were choosing to go elsewhere. You'll see at the top, though, in 11-12, we got a bright spot. The Oak Lawn referendum passed by 70%. In 12-13, Oak Lawn construction began, and our first strategic plan partnership with O4E started. We opened Oak Lawn in 13-14, and we passed our operational and technology referendum by 59%. And in 14-15, for the first time in anybody's memory, we didn't do any program and budget cuts. We had 1 year where we actually got to work on the work that you want us to be working on, and we didn't have to sit around and do program and budget reductions. And in 15-16, we also maintained the programs. We improved Lakeside. We've begun implementing our Learning Without Limits initiative and seen some stellar success. So that just lays out the real impact of what we do as a school district. In addition, the one thing that I want to point out is in 15-16, we were projected to lose 99 kids. We have been a declining enrollment district. In 15-16, we gained 17 students. That's a swing of over 100 students, many at the high school level, many at the elementary level as well. So that bodes well. So this trend is moving in the right direction. We've seen other districts that have gone in the opposite direction. In previous presentations, we pointed out Racine. Racine's over 1,000 student loss each year. That is crushing them as a school system. And we definitely don't want to go in that direction.
Excuse me, I have a suggestion for version 4.6.
Oh, do tell.
It just occurred to me. Since those are a loss of students,
Yes.
I think it would be clearer to me if you would put those numbers below.
Invert the
zero.
bar low? Yeah.
Yes.
I thought of that this morning when I was looking at this, and I'm like, you know, I always have to explain that it's a net loss.
Right.
And you'll see in another graph I did just that, and I thought, oh, I should really switch that one around.
Because when you show the amount of money that's been cut from the budget over years,
Yep, it
you're
goes
at
under.
zero and you go
Yep.
down. Usually when you're traveling north,
Yep.
this example.
Yeah, it's usually a
that
good
usually
thing.
means an increase. Usually it's just a suggestion.
That is an awesome
4.6,
suggestion.
4.7, whatever.
Tomorrow I didn't plan any changes to the presentation, but you know, hey, you know, this is
Just an
this is
idea.
this is good.
I've got a few next week, and it'll be nice to have the updated
That's
edition.
right. That's right. Actually, it would. In all seriousness, I totally agree with you on that, and was looking at that one and going, yeah, I should really change that one back.
We should note the fact that this fall, or beginning this year, the new voucher plan went into effect that could attract more students, and in spite of that, we grew, which is really a mark of success. And I believe, Sue, we had about 65 vouchers, 65 voucher students, as I
Yeah, I
recall.
think it's more in the 70s.
The 70 voucher students, but in spite of that, we grew in enrollment.
Absolutely. The other thing we talk about is our assessment scores, and we exceed the state average in almost every grade and measure for reading, math, science, and social studies. And as Julie pointed out a few weeks ago when she gave a workshop on assessment scores, the longer students are with us, the better they tend to do, which is awesome. This chart we often show, it shows that we've slightly exceeded the state average in literacy, but we've trounced it in mathematics, and that has been a long trend of ours and something we're very proud of. If you look at ACT scores, which is a universally accepted measure, you'll see that we're the dark blue line in the middle there at about 22.7. We are 1/10 of a point below Kimberly. The one thing I do point out is our demographics and Kimberly's demographics are quite different, and the fact that we are able to be only 1/10 of a point below them is a sign of our teachers doing some amazing things. So very proud of them. When it looks at graduation rate, you'll see we're the purple bar there, and that's 91.5% is our graduation rate, and that is stellar compared to the state graduation rate of 88.6%. Our state does have a very high graduation rate. Ours is higher than that. But when you look at the costs, you'll see that we have a little bit of a different story. We are near or at the bottom in every cost that you take a look at, whether it's teacher, administrative costs, per student costs, or tax levy. But we always go through a little bit of financial history 101. In '92, as we talked about, the state imposed revenue limitations on school boards, and that's when they froze us in place. And then you fast forward 20 years of being a low spending district compared to high spending districts, and that gap only widened. Adding to that, previous boards voted to tax less than allowed for operations, so they actually dropped the ceiling on themselves to the tune of about $8.3 million a year. That also contributes to the fact that we are $1,281 below the state average on a per student basis. in addition, this is the chart Dr. Herzog's referring to, that the other one will look like tomorrow morning. But this one shows all of our reductions in 06, 07 through 13, 14. And you can see there that we've made quite a few reductions. In fact, $17 million in program reductions and efficiencies in 8 years. Now, I point out when we talk about this, not all of that is bad. There are several things in those red lines that were efficiencies that have made us one of the lower spending districts in the state of Wisconsin. That's absolutely important for us to honor that, and that's one of our advantages, is that we can do things for less resources than others because of some of the things we've done to become more lean as time has gone on. This graph also showing downward, this actually is the difference between us and the state in a cost per pupil graph. The red line at the top is what the state did.
And in the earliest version, those lines also went up.
They also went up.
Yes, and it's been so great to be able to explain it this way.
Yes, and I actually got, you notice the years at the top don't overlay the data. That took a while. That's why they didn't go down right away. It took me a while to figure that one out. But you'll see the blue on the left. That is before the revenue limits were put in place on you as a school board. And I don't believe any of you were school board members back in 91, 92. But even during that time, the Oshkosh School Board was very frugal. They always were well below the state average. Not as far below as we are today, but we were well below it. Now the green illustrates what happened after the revenue controls were put in place, and we've continually declined as far as getting lower and lower and lower below state average. There's a couple of blips in there where we get closer again. That we believe that's when we built 2 schools. And we got a little bit closer because we expended more resources. But as far as how we compare in terms of compensation, we do not compare favorably with our counterparts. And this actually is our comparable school districts. These are the districts that we tend to use because they're somewhat like us, they're somewhat in the region. And you'll see here we are the red bar in that graph, and when we take our average salary and add it with our benefits, because that's total cost, we don't want to do one versus the other, we want to do what the total cost is. Oshkosh is the lowest. But I don't usually look at this one, and here's why. We don't typically lose teachers to La Crosse and Janesville. They're too far away, unless the family's relocating. But the next graph are the 41 districts surrounding us. These are the 41 districts in CESA 6, and you'll see we are once again the red bar. Now that means our teachers are the lowest in terms of compensation. And what you'll see in this chart is all of those 41 districts, and what I stress is there's a reason we show this. Some people, as we present it into the community, say, you don't show this to your teachers, do you? And I said,
They know.
I said, our teachers know this graph very well, believe me. We show it, but we show it for a couple of reasons. We show it because there are some people who think that the easiest way to resolve this, because 80% of our budget goes into human beings, is to decrease the compensation of those human beings even farther than it currently is. Go ahead.
There's also people saying that these graphs aren't actually factual. Where did you get this information from?
Oh, that's a great question. First off, we can only present factual information. Every one of these was pulled off of one of 2 spreadsheets. A spreadsheet that is downloaded from the DPI website. This one actually is the DPI average salary report for teachers. If you search the DPI website for TASR, it'll give you this report. And then what I did is I sorted this report by CESA, filtered it out by CESA 6, and then graphed it. But what I did do is I added in salary and benefits, so we got total compensation because I wanted to be 100% accurate with our data. So anybody else can replicate exactly the same graph, and if they want, they can email me. I'll even give them the spreadsheet so they can take it right from there.
I can speak to an example of what you're saying there. I was contacted recently by a young teacher who was in the Oshkosh Area School District. I thought he still was when he made this phone call about a month and a half ago. He told me that he had been recruited by one of those green lines within commuting district distance of Oshkosh, less than 20 miles away, was not looking to leave the Oshkosh Area School District, but they made him an offer he couldn't refuse. So that's happening out there in this state where we have statewide shortages in a number of areas, including high school English, high school math, high school science, technology education, media, business education, special education, to name a few. This is going to continue to happen as other districts outspend us and have more money to spend. It's kind of like the NFL teams with their salary caps. If you've got more money to spend, you can go out and recruit the
Right.
best teachers that Oshkosh and other districts have to offer. That's a problem.
It is a big problem, and one of the things that I do mention when we talk about this, especially with the business community and those in the private sector, is I say, let's just do this from a numbers standpoint. From a numbers standpoint only, not looking at quality, not looking at anything else. The least expensive way for us to continue to run this operation is to keep the great people we have. Because if I lose the people who represent the red bar, that means I need to hire a new teacher to replace them. And the average market rate for that position is in the middle of that graph. So that means when we lose people, we often have to hire them back at an increased cost based upon when compared to the person we just left. So this is one of those things where keeping stability in the organization is a benefit for all of us, including the taxpayers. So we also look at administration. Now, administration, while we can pull that information off the salary report, that is often incomplete. The group that does the best analysis of administrative overhead and wraps in all administrative overhead is the Wisconsin Taxpayers Alliance. They do a phenomenal job of breaking out what you're going to see in a moment, our cost per pupil, and they actually cut out of that $11,200 and some dollars that is our cost per pupil. How much of that goes to administrative overhead? And what you'll see here is this is a graph, and you can see it a little bit better on TV than you can see it on right here, but there's 423 lines there. And you'll see we are in the bottom third percentile. And that also adjusts for size. So obviously we have more administrators in Oshkosh than Omro does. And that's some of the information that was floated out there was, well, Oshkosh spends more on administration than Omro. Yeah, we do. We have 21 schools, they do not, and there is a reason for that. But when you adjust for size, you also take into account things like we should have some pretty good economies of scale. And that's why we are tied for 14th with Slinger at somewhere in the, I think it's around $680 of our $11,200 is what we spend in terms of administrative overhead. So we're definitely in the bottom 3%, which is something actually we're very proud of because we're very efficient. When you look at that per pupil, now, you can pick different line items and you can pick all sorts of different reports, but what it really boils down to is what type of check do we write as a community to go behind each one of our children that we educate in the Oshkosh Area School District. That number is $11,265. If we were to take the average of our athletic conference, it is $11,442. If you take our neighboring districts, it's $11,731. If you take our like-sized district, it's $11,852, and that's the one I look at, to be honest, because they should have the same economies of scale that we do. And if you look at our state average, it's $12,500. That means half of the districts in Wisconsin are above that, and we are $1,281 below that. That's something that we wish to not fall further behind. And what we're trying to do with this referendum is just continue to offer those opportunities. The other thing is even after this referendum, this graph is not going to change appreciably because everybody else is going up as well.
Yeah.
But one of the things we looked at was...
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Before you go on, how many schools went to referendum just this February? I think we had those numbers.
55 total went to referendum, but for operational it was...
8 or 9. It was in February. There weren't a lot that went in February.
Okay.
But there are like
How many are coming
60-some
up in
there are like
April?
There were 13 in
71
February.
going to, pardon?
13 in February.
And then there's 71 going
Yes.
in
April.
But of those, I think 34, 35, I'll double check, are operational.
Right.
But within the last 2 years, there were about well over 150 across the state have been going to referendum
almost
because
150,
they're caught in a box like
That's
we
like
are.
25-35% of all the school districts in Wisconsin have had to go to referendum.
And I would wager it's probably that 25 and 30% were districts that were very much in the similar condition we were. They were probably very frugal at the time. Boards were very cost conscious, and they got locked in and they got stuck. And the districts that were real high spenders have been riding fine ever since. And that's part of the that's a problem we'll have to deal with as a state. because we certainly don't want to have and have-not school systems, but we're really starting to generate that, especially over a 20-year span, when you run this over 20 years. Now, one of the graphs that people are usually interested in is, well, what if we were like those other districts? Well, if we were like our athletic conference, we would have about $1.7 million a year extra every year to spend. That we'd still have to make some reductions, but we'd be better off. If we were like our neighboring districts, we'd have about $4.6 million. So we'd actually, this year, would have $1 million surplus if we did that. If we were like-sized districts, it'd be about $5.7, $5.8 million, and the state of Wisconsin would be a little over $12 million a year. So we spend, when adjusted, we spend $12 million less than the state average. Per year.
So the information that's circling is that we don't know how to run our own budget and that we spend a ton of money. And this is saying absolutely not.
Absolutely not. In fact, those people, if they went to like-sized districts, they'd be spending a whole lot more.
Thanks.
Also, remember, we made significant reductions in the past, and that will come up again when we look at all the budget cuts, because some people say, well, those are pretty scary. How did we just get to those? Because the non-scary things were reduced years ago. Mill rate, the mill rate, you know, the previous numbers are about a year or two old, because those are the certified numbers from the state of Wisconsin. But mill rate, we get absolutely up to the minute numbers. This is 15-16 information. DPI has that published right away. So you look at our mill rate is 9.59. We're the dark blue on the third from the bottom. We used to be at the bottom, and the reason we're now third from the bottom is because we built Oaklawn. We passed a operational and technology referendum back in 2014. That was the $4 million then. And then we had 2 energy efficiency exemptions, which, by the way, were this community playing catch-up on maintenance projects that should have been done 10 years ago. So all of that wrapped in together, and we're still third from the bottom of that group.
Does that include Lakeside, too?
Includes
Yes, it would.
Well, that was
Lakeside really wasn't a tax.
That was a TIF.
Yeah, with the exception of the energy retrofit. The new boilers and the new heating equipment was part of that energy retrofit.
And for people who don't know what the energy retrofit is, remember those are projects that have to have a payback over the lifespan that will give us an energy efficiency savings. So they were things we were going to have to do anyways, but we did them, and we were able to do them and exceed the revenue limit to do them because they pay for themselves over the life of the project.
2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, Dave Hull, as our supervisor of custodians, mentioned the fact that as he was reflecting on his budget and budget for the end of this year regarding heating fuels, that being natural gas in all of our cases, he indicated that as late as 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, we were spending well over $1 million a year for natural gas as a result of certainly decrease in natural gas rates, but also energy efficiency. We will now have spent under $500,000 on natural gas for this year, which is a phenomenal savings over what was going on, and much of that has to do with more efficient new style hot water heating systems that do not consume that much natural gas.
The other piece of data that we have that we also used last time was the equalized property value. Now what that is it's the property value behind each child, because the reason we use property value and not other measures in a community is because schools are totally funded by property taxes. So the property value makes a significant impact one way or the other. When you look at ours, we are once again the dark blue bar there. We are actually second from the top. Some people were just asking, well, do we just have less property value than other communities? And that's why we're in this kind of budgetary pickle. Well, not from this data. I mean, this data would show that we're second from the top. Only Neenah has higher property value behind their children than we do. So that's the information there. In fact, the only one who could really say that story would be Menasha, that's sitting at the lowest property value. So obviously the school board took action, and they passed a referendum or they are hoping to pass a referendum, went to referendum for $4 million a year for 7 years. That's coming up on April 5th. The composition is as follows. In year one, it would be $3.4 million will be used to continue to operate the organization and continue to make this progress we have. $600,000 in the first year will be used for security improvements, specifically security cameras. In years 2 through 7, 100% of those resources will be needed to continue to fund. Now, some people have said, what happened to the last referendum? What'd you do with that? That is needed in addition to this to continue the same programs that are there. So that's really an important point. Now, as far as security improvements, 75% of school districts nationwide have security cameras in their schools. We do not. We only have one school, and that's Oak Lawn, that is properly covered with security cameras. It should also be noted, for us to do security cameras in 20 sites, we have 21, but Oak Lawn's covered, but to do it in 20 sites with over 600 security cameras inside and outside of our buildings for only $600,000 is only possible because of the investments we made in the previous referendum in our technology infrastructure. It's all going to be riding on top of that with everything else. Also, security cameras are used for assist with monitoring of visitors, child safety monitoring, protection of property against theft and vandalism, and assisting in missing children situations. So that's, in a nutshell, why we would like to put those cameras in our schools.
Is this something that the police department, the Oshkosh Police Department came to you and talked to you about this?
It is more than the police department. It's actually, EPCOT is our emergency preparedness committee, and it includes not only the City of Oshkosh Police Department, but Winnebago County Emergency Management, etc. They have made that request time and time again of us, of when are you going to get security cameras in your schools? As we continually keep an eye on student safety, it's one of our biggest concerns. It's something, while it's never guaranteed to prevent something horrible happening in our community, it certainly will help in terms of things, and it would also help in terms of things like vandalism. We do have some significant vandalism that occurs at time to time, both inside and outside the schools. We have very little recourse to figure out how that happened. This would help us quite a bit.
But this is something that Winnebago County and the Oshkosh Police Department fully want us to go forward with?
It is, and actually we do have a quote from Sheriff John Motz, Winnebago County, who actually, just reading in there that highly visible security cameras may not prevent an incident from occurring, but their presence can deter unlawful behavior, prevent bullying, and assist in the evacuation of both children and school staff in emergencies related to fire or other potentially dangerous situations. Even though I just committed the cardinal sin of PowerPoint and reading a slide to you, I just thought I would get that out there, and we appreciate Sheriff Motz's comments. We also got some comments from Dean Smith, our new chief of police in Oshkosh. Both of them are very supportive of this initiative. The previous district I was in, we had security cameras there, and police routinely were able to access them, which works out great in the middle of the night when they're trying to wonder if what's going on in a building, there's lights on. They can actually, right from their squad, look in and see if there's anything there and deal with it appropriately. So that's sort of the positive components of the referendum presentation, but we also have to take a look in terms of, if we did not get a yes vote, how do we balance the budget? And Stan brought a very effective process that involved 33 community members. They poured over the budget. They came up with a variety of solutions. Sue did a great job of kind of educating them on School Budget 101. They learned a great deal throughout that process, and they came up with a list of reductions. We then vetted those reductions, and they then scored them and ranked them. We also took out the ones that were illegal, and we also took out the ones that would cost us more money, because sometimes an idea may look like it's going to be a cost savings, but when you really vet it through, it ends up costing you more money. You obviously approved this list at the February 24th meeting, which means this is the list that would be enacted on April 6th with a no vote. We would have no choice but to do this because we would need to balance the books. I know there are some comments out there that the reductions would not occur. That's not true. It's also kind of silly to think that it wouldn't occur. We can't just manufacture $3.4 million out of thin air. So this is very important. So in 16-17, these are the items that would change. We'd require all middle school students to take one study hall. That would save about $1.1 million, reduce 16 teachers would be laid off, and we'd add in 4 paras to man those study halls. The second one is that we would eliminate all lower enrollment classes and electives in middle school and high school to do a hard limit of 28 to 1 as far as class sizes. This would also tag electives, and just to make this clear, this would mean that in middle school, we would not have family and consumer science, career and tech ed, science, technology, engineering, and math options. And at the secondary level at the high school, college advanced placement would be reduced. Career tech ed, business would not run, business courses, youth apprenticeship, agriculture, French, German, art, and music would all be significantly reduced, and those opportunities would not be available. And people have said, well, how do you really know that? Well, what we did is we ran it on this year's schedule. So if we had had to do this 12 months ago, this is what would have happened. That'll reduce another 12.5 teachers. It's also important to point out that ALPS would not run, communities would not run, and global academies are all operating well below that 28-to-1 threshold right now. So they would not run in that environment. And what strikes me the most as I was sitting here earlier today, everything you celebrated earlier in this meeting, the jazz band and all the awards that were in the superintendent's good news report, those would be significantly either reduced or just out and out gone. And that really probably illustrates it far better than I could, what we're talking about.
Can I just share really quickly? I was at an event for STEM for girls in middle school. It's a American Association of University Women had put it on up at Fox Valley, UW Fox Valley, and I was on a panel. And it was a glimpse into the future. And I had a mother ask me, she said, if this referendum doesn't pass in Oshkosh, are we going to have tech ed? And I said, it sure doesn't look like it. And she said, well, I was thinking about putting my kid then at Tesla and Appleton. Is that what I should do?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
So the backup plans are, they're going to leave. People with the means and the resources are going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And that was terrifying
and
to
that's
me.
the people with the means and the resources will leave.
I just wanted to share that.
That doesn't mean they have to move.
No,
Under
right?
state open
Quite the
enrollment,
opposite.
as long as they can provide transportation for their children, we will lose those children.
Can I share a counterpoint to that, too? I've developed a friendship with a school board member in Neenah, and he had commented just recently that his son in 5th grade has a sight set on our communities program here, which would be a real coup for our community and our school district, I think.
Yes. Thank you.
The third reduction would be closing one of 5 middle schools. That would save about $350,000. That'd be 1 administrator, 1 dean, 2 clerical, and 1.5 custodian. It would require us, first off, we'd have larger middle schools, and it would require boundary adjustments. Potentially all elementary boundaries would have to be tweaked potentially to fit whichever students would no longer be attending the school that's closed.
We have to frequently explain that it's only that amount because we're lifting and moving whole teachers and classes to new locations. The implication, people get confused that why wouldn't it be saving more money? No, we're not eliminating the teachers by this. We're simply moving teachers to new classrooms in other schools.
So the teachers would follow the students to whatever new school they would be sitting at. We'd also reduce employee health plan and require spousal surcharge. That would be about $300,000. Some have asked of why don't you do that anyways? We said, well, remember where that red line was. You're moving the red line farther in the opposite direction, which is certainly something that can happen, but that is the impact of that.
The other one I think that I always point out when I do this presentation is private sector has gone to spousal surcharges years ago. And so when you're presenting to businesses, they think that that's a good idea. But most of Wisconsin school districts don't have spousal surcharges. So if you're looking at a science teacher and we have a spousal surcharge on a family plan, but a neighboring district doesn't, that could be the tipping factor as to whether we attract that teacher or not.
Number 5, decrease teacher prep at secondary level by eliminating supervisory assistants and requiring teachers to sub for 16 periods. What this does is this puts our, this would reduce about 4 paraprofessionals. It would save us about $220,000. And the sub piece, just so people understand what that means is that our teachers at the secondary level have what we call 1 period of prep time throughout the year. And if you tour our high schools or walk through them as we do, you see that during that prep period, I rarely, if ever, have found a teacher alone. Usually there's students in there working with them, or they're working on preparing for the rest of the day's lessons, or however they're dealing with that time. They would give that time up and they would be subbing for somebody else's class during that time. So it would have an impact. We'd reduce district administration by 1 FTE. Our strategic plan and curriculum scope and sequence would be compromised. A lot of the things that we do here are focused on those efforts. Our ability to plan and respond to community needs. As you know, things come up in a school district of our size, and rarely is our day our own. We're usually responding to those needs, so we would be less responsive to those needs because there'd be less of us here to be doing that. Number 7, reduce high school athletic budget to the tune of $90,000. That's a relatively small amount out of the $3.4 million. It's about a 10% reduction in the athletic budget. That would double high school athletic participation fee from $50 per sport to $100 per sport. North and West teams would be combined into one team for football, boys and girls golf, softball, boys swimming, boys and girls soccer, and boys and girls cross country. So as we point out, there would not necessarily be a West and a North team. There would be one Oshkosh team for those sports. Number 8, increase the high school music teaching load from 4 to 5 sections. That'd be about $84,000. That would restrict any individualized lessons for students. In other words, there would be just mainly large group instruction for those groups. That'd be 1.2 teacher FTE. We'd eliminate funding for PD and reduce employee travel to the tune of about $85,000. When you look at a district of our size, we're about 1,200 employees. $85,000 on travel and professional development is not a very big number, but it does have a big impact on us, and our ability to stay current and have a quality program would be compromised. We'd reduce building budgets by 5%. That's about $43,000. Once again, a small numerical number, but we've reduced those building budgets. All those red bars that you saw before, every one of those had some sort of a building budget hit. So that impacts over time, and that compounds over time. Number 11, reducing one district clerical and maintenance staff. That would be about, once again, about $120,000. Responsiveness to district needs would be compromised. And lastly, selling the Riff Road property. While that was the number 1 on the list because it was less impactful to students, it is not money we have in the bank, number 1, not until it is actually sold. The Facilities and Finance Committee is already pursuing the option, and it is one-time revenue. So it should not be used for operations, but it should be used for one-time costs. Yes?
How long has that property been for sale?
I think since 2010 is my understanding, but when I drove out there to figure out where it was a while back, it's like there's no for sale sign. So I don't know how long the for sale sign hasn't been there.
I just wanted to dispel again the myth that we're holding the property as though we would use that money for, So anyways, it has been for sale. We would love to sell it.
Right.
And Sue has just signed an agreement with the listing agent once again to continue that process. And one of the things that's been a benefit to the district, that in the worst of the downturn in the real estate property values, that anticipating that it will be valued at much higher, it can be sold at a much higher price today than it could have in 2010, 11, 12, 13 in the depths of the real estate crisis. So from a standpoint of overall gain, it's paid to hold on to the land.
Well, go ahead.
I had to give notice to the farmer. The farmer that we purchased the property from has been allowed to farm the land, and I had to give him 90 days notice. So I had a conversation with him last week, and he was disappointed that the district would not be building out there because that would increase the rest of his property value that surrounds that.
Right. Yes.
The other thing is, some people have asked, well, why didn't you sell it before 2010? I said, well, before 2010, we were still looking for a solution to Oaklawn. There was a very real possibility that somebody could build a school out there, but it was the decision of the board at that time that no, we're going to build Oaklawn on site, and we have an amazing school out there. So at that point, then it became for sale. Now that's next year. We would start working on every one of those items April 6th with a no vote. We would have to, because we'd need some serious lead time in order to operationalize all of that, but that would consume April, May, June, and July. We'd need to be doing that to be prepared for our August opening. But we'd have to go farther, because the following year we'd have a $4 million hole we would need to fill, so we would combine 2 elementary schools into the now vacant middle school. This would close neighborhood schools. We'd redistrict the entire school district. Every school would need to be redistricted at that point. Boundaries would not be based necessarily on neighborhoods. It kind of depends on which school would fit into the now vacant school. Feeder school pathways would be disrupted and potentially transportation costs would increase. We'd suspend compensation increase for all staff and eliminate department chairs. This is out of a district our size. This is about $1 million. This would drastically accelerate us in the opposite direction from all the other 41 school districts you saw earlier. Contract cleaning of all facilities, that would be about $420,000. Cleanliness and security of our buildings would be compromised. Remember, we have buildings that are averaged age 75 years old, and our staff have done a phenomenal job of keeping those facilities up, and we would lose some of that capability, and that would we'd lay off 21 custodians in that particular reduction. The next one, reduce K-5 art, music, and PE specialists by half. This would mean that your elementary teachers would be doing their own art, music, and PE instruction. Mind you, this is the only time they have during the day, and it is not every day, but is the only time they have during the day to prepare. Everything else they do is outside, and they're constantly running. You can imagine our elementary teachers with 27 students in front of them throughout the day. This 25 or 30 minutes is a welcome opportunity there, and they would then be having to offer art, music, and PE instruction during that time themselves instead. This would reduce about 10 teacher FTE, and this would make us a significant outlier in the community or in the surrounding area because no other district has this.
And arguably, it impacts the quality of instruction. As good as our elementary teachers are,
Right.
most of them do not have minors in art, music, and physical education included.
Correct.
In addition to their elementary education major.
Absolutely. Number 5, we'd eliminate math and literacy intervention teachers. This is about $880,000. This is be 11 teachers would be laid off in that type of situation. Students would not receive intervention from these individuals anymore, obviously, and that means the teacher who is now teaching art, music, and PE would also be doing all their own interventions. Those students who did not require interventions would have much less attention as a result. And lastly, this one sort of breaks the back of the strategic plan. We'd eliminate all PD and instructional support not mandated by federal programs like Title I. These would be our instructional support teachers. We are already, we're at the top of the bottom quartile, but we're still within the bottom quartile for support staff when you compare us to other districts using the Taxpayer Alliance data. But this would eliminate all district PD. Direct support to classroom teachers would be eliminated. They'd have no supports for those students requiring interventions, and it would really deeply impact their time spent with other students. At the high school level, teachers would be responsible for scheduling, logistics, and administering their own AP tests. The curriculum scope and sequence would be compromised. Largely, our teachers would be on their own in this type of an environment. This would, in effect, eliminate the strategic plan. Our Learning Without Limits technology initiative would be unsupported, which would be of great concern given the amazing progress we've seen in just the short few months we've started it at the high school. Our media specialists would no longer be in the district, and our students would no longer have the benefit of having a trained media specialist. Math recovery would be significantly reduced. This would reduce 25.5 teacher FTE. So that is what living within our means. The means, by the way, are what the state has said our means are to be. That's what that looks like. Our alternative is to ask the voters for their permission to exceed the revenue limit to the tune of $4 million a year for 7 years. The impact of that would be $83 per year on a $100,000 home, or about just under $7 per month would be the impact to keep all those other programs going and continue the great progress we've made on the strategic plan.
Or a quarter a day, 25 cents a day.
25 cents a day.
How much per minute?
I didn't work that out yet.
So in summary, if the referendum's approved, we protect those programs for students. School security will be improved. The community developed strategic plan will be supported. And I want to doubly stress, we're still going to be one of the lowest spending districts in the state of Wisconsin. We're still going to be one of the best cost-benefit stories. We'll certainly be the cost-benefit story in the area. That's after it was approved. Now, if it's not approved, we'll have to make the $3.4 million in reductions because we have no choice. We have to balance that budget. There'd be another $4 million the following year. We would not be adding in security cameras, obviously. There'd be no resources for that, and we would not be implementing the strategic plan because there'd be no resources for that. Anybody who is interested in information, we put a wealth of information out there. You can go to our website, you can email us. People email us all the time, ask us some fantastic questions. They call us on the referendum hotline. We call them back either the next day, usually sometimes the same day. So we've been able to answer all of those questions. And we actually, I just want to show people the actual website that we have in place. This is our referendum website. You'll see here it has a very short 3-minute video. If you don't have a lot of time and you want to hear about the referendum, this YouTube video is a great place to start. There's also a form down here where you can submit any question you want, and we'll get back to you right away. Over on the left are some different sections. There's an announcements section where we take all the news stories and new things about the referendum. It's an RSS feed, so you want to subscribe to that and get alerted anytime something's new. You can do that. We also developed a frequently asked question website, and from here that you can even see we have general referendum questions and school budget and finance questions, and then all the answers are below in detail, so you can check that out. We also have a rumor versus reality section. All we can do is provide verifiable information. We can't advocate one way or the other. Our job is to provide information that is from reliable sources, which is why we use the Department of Public Instruction state reports. They come from every other school district as well, and we use the Taxpayer Alliance, which analyzes all 423 school districts. At the bottom of this, you'll see the 5 facts about the Oshkosh Area School District, and just very quickly, fact number 1 is in almost all measures of spending, Oshkosh ranks at or near the bottom. Number 2, state school funding has remained flat or decreased. None of these are in dispute by anybody. Number 3, housing values rise and fall with school quality. There is a ton of home value research on this website as well, and that's it in a nutshell. Number 4, without additional revenue, we will need to cut $3.4 million in 16-17 and $4 million in 17-18. And lastly, the state allows local school districts to exceed the state-imposed limits only with voter approval, which is why we're doing this here today. Lastly, we have In the News, where all the news stories and TV coverage is posted. If you want to see anything from the past, you can click on Presentation Calendar and see the dozens of presentations we've all done. And lastly, Resource Documents has both videos in it, both the short video and the longer, basically video. If those watching at home didn't get enough excitement out of this, you can watch us again. And then all the PDF documents and fact sheets are in there. We also have it in Hmong and Spanish for people who do not speak English. So anybody who can see that, we put that out there as well. So that's the referendum information. And at this point, I'd open it up if you have any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
All right.
Something Stan asked me to look up if I was what was the impact of the last referendum? Because I think we said it was 56 cents, and I was going to look that up, but it was I think we'd
Yes,
say
it
it
was
would be 56 cents.
Yep.
And then we always get state aid in the year after that. And so the actual impact, because we got state aid, now granted we got state aid on the first step payment of Oakland, and we got state aid because we paid the first payment on our energy efficiency borrowing. But the net effect of that was actually 43 cents rather than 56 cents. So the same thing will happen with the $83 is in year 2, the impact won't be quite $83, and I'm reluctant to say exactly what that will be, but it will go down because we'll get increased state aid on the $4 million that we tax and spend.
So basically, if you spend more as a school system, you get more aid as a school system.
Right.
Which is another reason why those districts that, and people also don't realize, the other districts that are passing referenda, we pay for those. Because about half or more of those referenda, depending on the school district and how they're aided, comes from the whole state of Wisconsin. So when we weren't taking care of our boilers, our windows, our roofs, and our schools, and we were giving the other communities in Wisconsin a pass on paying for those, yet we were still paying for their new boilers, their new roofs, and their new windows. So just to be aware of that, the state does share in the cost of these referenda,
And we should note the fact that in the end, we don't get any additional dollars. It is the amount of dollars that the voters approved, but we get the total value is offset by state aid. And so we don't end up with having to tax at great amount as we would have had after the first year, because we get credit for that.
So basically, Oshkosh gets a little bit of the state pie that we never get to see.
Right.
So.
And one of the issues that we should always note, and the fact that in the recent years, in the last 5 years, the net increase in revenue, when you look at that original chart, we've had 2.01% total over 5 years, which is about 0.4% average for the last 5 years of new revenue. And the district at the same time has received well over 8.8% in total new revenue. Totally agree with our legislators on that, but all but 2.01% has been property tax relief. And it's with intent. It's not a surprise, but the legislature and the governor's office has determined that they're trying to provide property tax relief, and at the expense of property tax relief, which is a good thing. The amount of new revenue we've had to spend per student is 2.01% from state sources. So it's a very difficult one for individuals to understand, but I would encourage people to look at last December's property tax bill. The last installment, or not the last, but the latest installment of property tax relief was the 2.2% that this board approved in November.
All right.
In closing, I would just like to say thank you to the entire executive team. The heaviest burden on all of this has really been on Sue and Dave, who have been, Dave manning all the questions, both telephone as well as email, and Sue being our ultimate source on every financial question around. The rest of our executive team have been presenting and also providing guidance and facts on every one of the cases. This has been a group that is second to none in taking on this task, and their dedication is beyond belief, and I'm grateful to all of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, looks like we go into consent resolution agenda. For the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background material on each item or has discussed it at a previous meeting, and these will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. If a board member wants to discuss any item, it will be pulled out of the consent agenda and will be voted on separately. So far, I've had 6A, 7, and 8 be requested to be pulled. Does anyone else want to have anything else taken out of there? Then we will consent resolution would be the board will consider approval of number 1, minutes of February 24th, 2016 regular board meeting, 2, minutes of February 24th, 2016 executive session of regular board meeting, 3, minutes of March 9th, 2016 regular board meeting, 4, minutes of March 9th, 2016 executive session of regular board meeting, 5, bills payable, 9, summer school program plan, 10, update of policies 3120.08, employment of personnel for co-curricular extracurricular activities, 11, update of policy 7217, weapons.
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Tito?
Aye.
Tito, aye. Eliason?
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Evans?
Aye.
Evans, aye. Werner?
Aye.
Werner, aye. Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Lemberger? Olmsted?
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Motion carried.
Resolution 6A, be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve the appointments, temporary appointments, resignations, retirement, and salary schedule as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education.
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
I had asked that this be pulled. I find it very bittersweet whenever we are asked to vote on retirements. These represent people who have dedicated years of their lives to serving the children and this community. And I just wanted to thank the individuals for their service, whose retirements we are voting on tonight.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, can you call the roll?
Eliason.
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Evans.
Aye.
Evans, aye. Garner.
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog.
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Limburger. Olmsted.
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Vito.
Aye.
Vito, aye. Motion carried.
Resolution number 7, be it resolved, the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve a new 2-year athletic cooperative agreement for boys swimming with Oshkosh North High School, Oshkosh West High School, and Lourdes Academy beginning with the 2016-17 school year as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President, I had asked that this be pulled so that we could invite one or both of our activities directors to give us a 1 or 2 sentence summary of how this particular agreement would be different from those of the past.
Thank you, Brad, for being here tonight.
Thank
problem.
you for waiting so long.
Yeah, that's all right. So basically, because this would be a brand-new co-op, typically the state association requires board approval. So currently, Oshkosh North and Lourdes Academy have a swimming co-op. It's been in place for a number of years. When it's time to renew, I checked, we don't need formal board approval on a renewal that's already in existence. So that one will roll over, assuming everything goes, the referendum passes on April 5th. If it does not, in order to meet the deadline for next year, we have to have approval of that new co-op, which would be Oshkosh West, North, and Lourdes Academy, on file by April 1st. So we're doing our due diligence to make sure this is ready to go in the event the referendum would fail, and then we would be able to do this already for the next school year in 16-17.
Thank you. Thanks, Brad.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you, Brad. Thanks. Any other
Appreciate it.
discussion?
I just appreciate the anticipation in handling this. We hope that we don't have to implement.
Do we?
That'd be a big team.
Yes, it would. Yes, it
It
would.
would be, some kids probably wouldn't be able to
No,
be on the
it's
team.
not a no-cut sport.
It's a big team.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
one comment about any co-op automatically has to become a no-cut sport.
Right.
Yeah.
So with a co-op, everybody that comes out is guaranteed an opportunity to participate on the team. Doesn't mean they'll get to compete,
They have
but
very, very, very long evenings on those. So there, last year was 52 kids last year, the boys.
the West program had a
Yeah,
lot.
so that's a lot of. That's,
One of the larger programs in the area.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
I think I have Aaron to thank for alerting you that might need you here tonight. Thank you.
If there's no discussion, further discussion, can you call a roll, please?
Evans.
Aye.
Evans, aye. Garner.
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog.
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Limburger. Olmsted.
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Vito.
Aye.
Vito, aye. Eliason.
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Motion carried.
Resolution number 8, be it resolved, the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve the final notice of non-renewal of teacher contracts for teachers with temporary contracts as filed with the Secretary of the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President, I'd also ask that this one be pulled. I know that by law we have to do this, and I just find it challenging to know that we are having an impact on the lives of teachers, again, who have contributed to the students of this district. I see at least one on here who I believe received an award at the Celebrate Education event on Monday evening. And I'm hoping that the situation will be such that we will be able to bring some of these talented young staff members back into the district.
Well said. Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Garner.
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog.
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Limburger. Olmsted.
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Vito.
Aye.
Vito, aye. Eliason.
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Evans.
Aye.
Evans, aye. Motion carried.
Request for future agenda items. Hearing none, announcements.
I would just like to make a brief statement. Several of us who were at a meeting that was publicly noticed before this one, which was the celebration of the Employees of the Year, had noted that we have received information that some of the campaign signs, whether for the yes group or the no group, have been either damaged or have been taken away, one might say stolen. And I just want to point out that damaging of campaign signs, whether they're for a referendum or for an individual candidate, constitute an illegal activity or taking away of those signs. So I would suggest that if anyone has had such signs removed from their yards or badly damaged, that they contact the Oshkosh Police Department, because this is a police matter. And under our Constitution of the United States, people have freedom of speech. Those signs constitute freedom of speech, and we need to respect that, even if the opinion expressed may not be one that we would support. So I just urge people to leave those signs alone, and let's respect the process. Thank you.
Other announcements? Then at this time, we would adjourn to executive session for number one, considering the disciplinary data of specific persons, 19.851F Wisconsin statutes. A, review expulsion recommendation from expulsion hearing officer for a high school student as engaged in conduct while at school or while under the supervision of school authority that endangered property, health, or safety of others at school, endanger property, health, or safety of school authority, or endanger the property, health, or safety of any employee or school board member of the school district, and or while not at school or while not under the supervision of a school authority that endangers the property, health, or safety of others at school, and a repeated refusal or neglect to obey school rules 120.131C Wisconsin statutes. And I thought some of our policies were redundant in a certain which brings me to number two, considering the disciplinary data of specific persons, 19.851F Wisconsin statutes. A, review expulsion recommendation from expulsion hearing officer for a high school student who engaged in conduct while at school or while under the supervision of the school authority that endangered the property, health, or safety of others at school and endangered the property, health, or safety of a school authority, or endangered the property, health, or safety of an employee or school board member of the school district, and or while not at school or while not under the supervision of a school authority that endangered the property, health, or safety of others at school, and or repeated refusal or neglect to obey school rules 121.3.1C Wisconsin statutes.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Limper? Olmsted?
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Vito?
Aye.
Vito, aye. Eliason?
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Evans?
Aye.
Evans, aye. Joyner?
Aye.
Joyner, aye. Motion carries.
We are adjourned to executive session.